Hello and welcome to my channel Inspiring Life Changes. My name's Colette and I'm here today to do a reading for the new moon that's taking place in Aries on the 12th of April. If you're in the UK, it's on the 12th. Other parts of the world it's taking place on the 11th, so it'll be happening today for other people watching this. Thank you very much for coming across to my channel to check out what I'm doing. I am an intuitive tarot reader, but I also do intuitive interpretations of astrology as well. So this is my intuitive interpretation of what is taking place at this time. So I'm going to start with the cards, the Moonology cards, as I always do. We have 3 cards this week, this new moon. So we have the new moon energy itself, which is saying that there is a new start coming, which there will be because it is a new moon, and whenever there is a new moon there is a new energy that comes in, and it's taking place in Aries, and it's saying that it's time to take action. Aries is a very action orientated energy because it is a cardinal moon, cardinal energy, saying be bold, make the first move, do something, initiating energy, cardinal energy, energy of making something happen. Aries is an energy of doing, of creative passion and drive. So with that being said, I've called my astrology reading the new moon in Aries leaping into the new unknown. And at the time of the new moon, the divine masculine, which is the sun energy, conjuncts with the divine feminine moon energy, which means that the two of them come together in the same sign, which is why you can't see the moon. It's a new moon, dark moon. The moon's invisible. So this new moon is in the first sign of the zodiac, which is Aries the Ram, and it is the first new moon of the astrological calendar, and it is taking place at 22 degrees and 24 minutes at 03:30 hours UK time on the 12th of April. If you have any planets or points between the 17 to 27 degrees of this sign, you will be feeling this the most intensely, and it is the most powerful new moon of the 2021 of this year. Not just because it's the first new moon, but also because it is the Aries moon, and because there is so much activity around this moon as well. So yeah, on an inner subconscious level, on an emotional level, this moon is going to be very powerful. The other 3 remaining cardinal houses will also be feeling this new moon effects, especially if you have anything within those same degrees. So the other 3 cardinal houses, of course, are Libra, Cancer and Capricorn. So you may want to check out your own astrology chart to see which house this is happening for you on a personal level. If you don't have your astrology chart, if you don't know where this is taking place for you, in which house, I will leave a link in the description box down below for you to check that out for yourselves. So once again, we are experiencing a stellium of planets in the same sign as this new moon is taking place. And a stellium of planets means that there's 3 or more planets all in the same sign at the same time. And this seems to have been something that's been slowly building up since the new moon of January, when we had the Sun, Moon and Venus together in Capricorn along with Pluto. Then in February, the new moon in Aquarius had Sun, Moon, Venus and Mercury, all 4 of our inner personal planets, along with 2 of the outer planets as well. There was a lot of activity in Aquarius at that time. And the Pisces new moon once again had the Sun, Moon and Venus, as well as Neptune. And interestingly as well, that when the January new moon happened, it had Pluto, which is in Capricorn. The Saturn, the Aquarius moon, is in its home sign of Aquarius as well, and this new moon, or the Pisces new moons should I say, had its own planet in its home sign as well. So at this time, the new moon, we once again have the same 4 inner planets. So we have the Sun, we have the Moon, we have Venus and Mercury, all 4 of our inner planets once again. The only one missing is Mars. And it would appear that these planets have been following an exact pattern for the last 4 months. So they seem to have been doing the same thing, which is very interesting, kind of slowly gathering and then kind of building up. And Mercury has been the planet that has kind of been missing out of those 4, although Mars has been missing like continuously throughout them. Every now and again Mercury would get left behind and then he would catch up again. So so now we have Sun, Moon, Venus and Mercury, all our inner planets, which is another reason why this is such a powerful new moon, is because our inner planets are all together, and it is the first new moon, as I was saying, of the astrological year, and it's the cardinal energy that it's in. So Mars is still very much involved in this mix, although he's not actually there present in Aries. He is, at the time of this new moon, sextile Sun, Moon and Venus from Gemini at 23 degrees and 6 minutes. So he's adding his fiery independence and courageous drive to get something started up and running. And also he was in the he was also there at the time of the full moon in Libra as well. So he was also at the same time adding his drive and passion to that full moon that we had, which was a super moon as well, the previous moon. So this stellium in Aries, which also includes Chiron at 09 degrees 39 minutes, conjunct Mercury at 14 degrees 57 or 15 degrees, is creating something new and passionate that is going to be felt on an individual level as something we feel fired up by, something that we cannot ignore, as we can feel it on a deep level of it being right for us now. And it feels like it's something that's been gradually building up throughout this last year, which is kind of finally coming up, like a bit like an erupting volcano in a way. It's finally going to get released and let out. I'm talking of which, there is actually a lot of volcanoes that are actually erupting at this time as well. So anyway, regardless of what anyone else thinks or feels about it, this is about our sovereign identity, and we ourselves will have the initiative and the determination to start down that path, to take that first step, or the leap of faith we need to move us forward. Particularly as Mercury moves into and crosses that all-important axis Mundi point on the 4th of April, leaving the confusion of the not being so sure and the uncertainty of what if energy behind. Mercury has not long come out of a conjunction with Neptune, which was exact at 21 degrees 20 minutes on the 30th of March. Whenever Mercury is in Piscean energy, it is a time of vagueness and not really knowing what to do, a time when we have to trust our inner voice and intuitive hunches, which is not easy for the logical mind to do. So when Mercury meets up with Neptune, it can be a time of great creativity, but it can also feel like we are in a retrograde, as everything feels foggy and undefined around us, like walking and living through some kind of haze. We can also become very forgetful. Mercury at this time needs to learn to allow himself to let go and release whatever it has been holding on to and just submerge itself into the deeper waters of the subconscious, trusting it will be safely carried to its destination. That destination is the 0 degree 0 point of Aries. And as I said recently in another astrological write-up I did, the 29 degrees 59 point is the most difficult point on the zodiac. And that's for any and all the planets. That point is the hardest point. And it's usually when something major will occur. And in fact, when the sun crossed over that point recently was when the volcano that is erupting in Iceland started to erupt at that point. So now that Mercury too has crossed that point, he is bringing with him a new sense of trust and faith in ourselves that we can achieve whatever we are setting out to experience. And I'm getting a strong sense of the Fool card from the tarot, who once she or he reaches a certain point in life realizes they no longer have to carry all that emotional baggage, as she or he can then return to a place of innocence and childlike wonder again, ready to start a new journey in life. And that's what I feel that this Aries energy is about. It's about that leap of faith, and because we've just come out of Pisces as well, Mercury's now left that energy behind. He's also feeling a lot more confident and stronger in himself as well. So we're reaching that point where we're kind of leaving all that past behind us. It's like, that's done. We've been there, we've done that. Now it's time to move on into this new energy that's coming in. It feels like we are reaching that collective jumping off point, but instead of leaping off the cliff and falling downward, we are leaping into a higher, more confident form of ourselves, being lifted above and beyond the level we have reached so far to date, as we are no longer weighed down by the burdens we have carried up to this point in our life, whether that's just over this last year or whether that's over many years or even the last week. However long, it's like those burdens are kind of been released and let go of. And in the card of the Fool, this is depicted as the fact that he's got a bag over his shoulder and there's a feather in the bag. So it's kind of showing that that's all those burdens have kind of been taken off, and the feather is like light, and it's kind of like we're much more light-hearted in a way as well. So all the burdens are gone. Okay, so Mercury stopped being conjunct to Neptune on the 3rd of April, just before he was getting ready to leave the watery world of Neptune behind. So Mercury always finds it difficult, in particular, to go through that particular sign. So it has been a time of fogginess, but we are at this moment in time in a square with Mars and Neptune as well, which Mars rules the head, so it could have kind of brought on lots of headaches. People could have been affected by their vision could be affected, dreams as well, lots of lucid dreaming could be happening, and just this general kind of, again, this kind of energy of how can you put it, not having a lot of energy, so not really having much kind of not that it's not that we're not fired up, but there's just this general kind of like a bit of a malaise, I would say, when Mars and Neptune are square each other. So again, Mercury, as he moves into Aries, will be in the sign ruled by Mars, just as Mars is in the sign ruled by Mercury. And at this time, Mars is still out of bounds in Gemini, which means that this ride we are initiating is going to be a wild ride up until the end of May. This ride, though, is one that will take us towards our own personal journey of true self-discovery. And it also feels like a strong sense of self-discovery. Mars is fired up and ready for anything. And he is connecting to the trio in Aries, encouraging self-love, self-value, and being our own boss. So when I say the trio, I'm talking about the Sun, the Moon, and Venus. But yeah, because Mars is out of bounds, he's on a bit of a wild ride of his own, because he's not really taken any, he's out of the ecliptic of the Sun as well. So he's like, doesn't have anybody as a boss. He's like not answering to any of the planets at all. Even though he may be connecting with them, he's not actually having to live by their rules, shall we say. So he's kind of really out there on his own, doing his own thing, which could be a little bit disconcerting as well, but or disconcerting, should I say. I will kind of get to that in a bit. But he is fired up, ready for anything. And like I said, yeah, he wants to be his own boss when it comes to making major decisions in our life. This is an unleashing of our inner spiritual warrior, which is finding its courage and bravery to stand strong in what it believes is right and not feel the need to apologise to anyone. As the Sun, Moon and Venus, when I say apologise to anyone, it's like, I'm going to do this because it's right for me, because I feel right, it feels right for me. So anybody who tries to stop that is actually going to hinder somebody's process, because even if it's a difficult process, sometimes we have to learn from these difficult experiences, and sometimes if we stop somebody from doing that, we're actually not helping them. Although we may feel that we're helping them, we're actually not, because you can only ever learn by experience. So we have to kind of take a stand back and let that person experience whatever it is, and then be there for them, to support them. And that goes for us as well. It's like, you know, we have to do the same thing as well. It's having the courage to step out beyond that boundary. Okay, so as the Sun, Moon and Venus are in a triple conjunction with a feisty, furious female warrioress energy of Eris at 24 degrees 05. So we've got Sun, Moon and Venus who are in a triple conjunction, and we've also got Eris there at 24 degrees, and Eris is in between both the Sun, the Moon, and then Venus is on the other side of her. So the four of them are also opposing the very feminine, raw creation, female energy of the dwarf planet Haumea at 28 degrees 09 in Libra. And I speak about Haumea in my previous write-up, which I didn't actually do as a video, even though I did say that I might do it as a video. I didn't do it as a video because I felt that it was too long past the actual moon energy at that time. So and also, as I explained in my other video, I've had Saturn squaring my Mars and my Mercury, so there's been a lot of kind of holding things back for me over this past 3 months, possibly longer. Anyway, so the Haumea she was named Haumea after the Hawaiian goddess of creative energy, the creative raw energy that literally creates like islands out of volcanoes, that kind of really creative raw female energy. And Haumea at this time is being opposed by everything in Aries, the trio and Eris in Aries. which is a lot of feminine energy, and the sun there as well. And they are all square to Pluto. So all of that energy is squaring Pluto at this time, which is the planet of power and the ruler of birth, death and rebirth. And he's sitting at 26 degrees 44 minutes, more or less 27 degrees, in Capricorn. In fact, Eris, goddess of discord and disharmony, is sitting between the new moon, sun, Venus on the other side of her, and the goddess Haumea opposite, and they're all creating a T square to Pluto, which is implying that transformation on a deep psychological level is taking place here. Transformation that may not be easy, as we may have to face up to things we would rather ignore that have been happening all around us, which we are only now gaining the strength to be honest with ourselves about. And I also see this Haumea energy, and also Make, which I think he also comes up later, which is the masculine, creative, raw energy. Same kind of energy as Haumea, but it's the masculine version with a very kind of feminine overtone. Whereas Haumea is the female version, but she has a very masculine overtone. But they're both representative for me of the earth herself, that kind of raw creative energy. What makes volcanoes erupt, and that's where they kind of stem from, this energy. So I also see it very much as us having to kind of take a good look at what we're doing at this time to this planet. And I find it interesting that we have things like Extinction Rebellion and anti-fracking groups and anti-5G groups and all those kind of things that are coming up and building up, because this energy is kind of being recognized more and more. And both Haumea and Make, were discovered back in about 2004, I think it was, and they kind of came onto the scene around about 2006, but they're only now kind of really coming into the consciousness as well, and that's really when things start to change. So so just like at the last full moon in the 7th house of our personal one-on-one relationships, this includes an energy that is opening up our consciousness as to what is our individual relationship with this planet we all inhabit. Interestingly, the last full moon in Libra, opposing the Sun, Venus and Chiron, also involved another dwarf planet, Make at 6 degrees, and is seen as the masculine raw creation energy. Both are in Libra, the sign of justice, balance, harmony, fairness, equality and equilibrium. And ironically, one is at the beginning of the scales and the other is near the end of the scales. So they literally are both end of Libra, which I find quite interesting as well, and kind of the masculine and the feminine trying to balance that energy out. And they are also both retrograde as well, and being very slow moving planets, they are going to be there for quite some time. Also at this time, Make will also be opposing the Chiron energy in Aries as well for quite some time. So there is this kind of healing process, this backwards and forwards healing process that is taking place here, on a deeper level of our own kind of, as I was saying, our relationship to the very planet that we live on, that gives us everything we need in order to survive. And I also feel that there's a lot of questions that are being asked as to why we have to live the way that we live as well. So, where are we? Yeah, okay, so a reminder of our relationship with all the creatures that we share this planet with. and that first and foremost, all our relationships start with the one we have towards ourselves and our own authenticity. Only by aligning with that personal side of our own raw nature, without being told who we are or who we should be, will we be able to fully understand our individual reason for being a part of all of this. Why are we here? With Chiron at 9 degrees in conjunction with Mercury at 14 degrees, or 57 or 15 degrees, and both semi-sextile with Uranus at 9 degrees 36, that is semi-sextile, so that's like 30 degrees difference, which is a smaller energy rather than a sextile, which is 60 degrees and has a stronger energy about it. So it is kind of saying there's something within the way we relate and respond to ourselves is healing and changing on a deep fundamental level. Which with Chiron in Aries, also opposing Make at 6 degrees 33, involves a lot of that raw alpha masculine warrior energy, which in today's narrative would be classed as the toxic male. Personally, I prefer the idea of it being deep-rooted, base chakra, survival, fight or flight, generational, genetic, historical, conditioned and ingrained ways of thinking that Chiron is helping us to heal and move beyond. So that is how I personally see this toxic male energy, is it's something that has been so kind of inbred into that dynamic for centuries, millennia. It's kind of very, very ingrained within the male personality, and it's only now that this kind of breaking free from that energy. But Chiron is there in Aries, and it will be there in Aries for another few years yet, and it's helping to kind of heal that wound, if you like, that deep wound, which has a lot to do with the male masculine energy. Also the father energy as well has a lot to do with healing that kind of energy, the absent father. Even if the father was there in the home, he wasn't always there for the children. He would be out working, he would be the one earning the money, even though nowadays that has changed a lot more and it's both parents that aren't there rather than just the one parent. But on the whole, it would have been the father figure who would have been out. So there was always this kind of like, I wouldn't say mysticism around the father figure as such, but there was a kind of, like he was, I suppose, outside of that family unit in many ways, even though he was the one that was kind of keeping that family unit together. So there is an interesting kind of dynamic taking place there. And Chiron is helping us to heal that and move beyond it. Which we're kind of also seeing in the gender changing energy that's taking place at this time as well. So outwardly, it is still very difficult to see the bigger picture. And I'm being shown a piece of very old, faded, it was like, I did actually write that bit down, but it was faded and it was frayed, kind of old piece of tapestry, just a small piece of tapestry. And it was being unpicked, although it is no longer physically connected to our story today. But that's kind of what I was being shown, that this old, dusty kind of piece of historical tapestry, if you like, that we're still, we're not connected to it physically any longer, but we are still connected to it on an energetic level, and it's kind of led us to where we are now. And because of this, it is still affecting us on an energetic level at this time. And as the picture expanded outwards, it was showing me how each small part was kind of interwoven and connected with all the rest of the other parts. And each section of this tapestry is a part of our story, both individually and collectively. Also generationally as well. And what I was being told is that when it comes to our past generational lives, the things we are most affected by now, personally, whatever rises up emotionally as the most strongest reaction for each of us, are the things we have been energetically bonded to and tied to for many lifetimes, or through generational ancestral threads. And it is the unpicking of these threads in the tapestry of our present lives and the removal of these stories that is clearing out the past karmic connection. And by doing so, it is allowing that new energy in for us to energetically remove the attachment or emotional hook that keeps us reliving the same storyline or timeline in the present. For us to be able to move into a whole new, higher level of frequency and perspective over these coming months and years ahead. Which is very much that Chiron energy. It was coming through as that Chiron healing energy of us kind of having to clear out, like unpicking those threads that go back generationally. Because Chiron is about generational healing, healing past wounds from our own family stories and histories. And like I said, in the coming months and years ahead, because Chiron's going to be there for quite some time yet. So Venus has now passed out of sight in her 8-year cycle as she changes from a morning star to an evening star. She's been dipping lower and lower toward the horizon since January and the rising sun. On the 26th of March, she kazemied over the face of the sun, which basically means she went over the heart of the sun, the centre of the sun, in what is known as her superior conjunction, meaning she was furthest away from the Earth on the other side of the sun to us, so we couldn't actually see her. And Venus is not due to reappear until May. She does actually reappear on the 1st of May, when we will once again see her light after the sun has dropped below the horizon. She will become visible in the western sky. During this period of time, relationships can undergo some very dramatic changes of both endings and beginnings, especially in the sign of Aries, where we are waking up like the spring energy itself. We can be initiating new ideas around our relationships and what we value. We may also find ourselves wanting to reignite old passions and flames that may not be fully extinguished, or we could be finding ourselves ready to allow something completely new and as yet untried into our lives. As Venus reappears, she is going to be in her own sign of Taurus, at home, happy and content. Venus knows what she wants from her relationships. Now she is looking for steadfastness, or she will be when she reappears. Steadfastness, someone to share her own values with, whatever those values may be for each of us individually. Venus is looking for growth on a level of putting down roots and opening her heart to all the love and beauty she can share and receive. But she will be out of sight up until May the 1st, so that's quite some time. We've still got another couple of weeks yet before she reappears. In her 8-year cycle, Venus creates the most elaborate pattern in the sky as seen from a geocentric Earth. In the middle view, she creates not only a looped pentagram made from her inferior conjunctions. So her inferior conjunctions is when she's closest to the Earth and she's between the sun and the Earth. So it's when she goes retrograde as well. So we see her pass across the sun at this point, or we can see her pass across the sun. But she also draws a many-petaled flower while in her superior conjunctions. So when she goes further out, she draws this amazing like many petals. It literally looks like a rose, which is possibly why roses are so synonymous with the idea of love and passion, both energies which Venus brings into our lives, along with the thorns roses grow to symbolise and remind us of the pain that love can bring. At this time, with Venus out of sight, I also feel as though she's kind of like deliberating. It's like she's gone into kind of a deliberating mode. She's kind of mulling things over. She's kind of trying to decide for herself what it is that she really wants. So Venus is continuing to travel along with the Sun. While she is doing so, on the 10th of April, she will cross over Eris at 24 degrees 3 minutes, which was yesterday, but this conjunction will last for a while. And it will help to bring a softer touch and a slightly more gentle attitude to our feisty, hot-headed female warrioress energy, meaning she is less likely to want to be out chopping off limbs, figuratively speaking, of course. So if there are apologies to be made in any relationship, this could be a good few days to do so. Although you may still feel like you've just been put through a blast furnace, at least you'll still be in one whole piece, physically, if not mentally. If you do need to make any apologies, now is a good time to own it for your own self-growth. Even though Mars does not feel like apologising to anyone at this time, Eris and Venus may feel that apologies are called for. And if you have any reason to do so, like I was saying, it may be a good time to think about doing it for your own self-growth, for your own benefit, not just for the person that you're apologising to. So Venus will be at 26 degrees 42 minutes during the time of the new moon in Aries. She has crossed over Eris, who is now the centre energy, bringing in some very strong feminine energy, with the moon and Venus all conjunct each other. So that's three strong female energies all in a row. The moon is feeling strong with this Venus, with this Aries energy, even though she's not in a place of feeling happy. Moon doesn't really, and Venus, it's not really their energy. They're much more feminine because it's an actual masculine energy. Aries is a masculine sign. They're not totally content or happy in Aries. It's a bit more difficult for their energies. But the three of them are all in a row, all conjunct, so they're all kind of supporting each other at this time. Eris has been there since 1922, so Eris is kind of strongly placed in Aries now, and beginning to let her energy be felt as well. She's really kind of behind a lot of the stuff that we see where it's kicking off around the planet at this time, and she's also square to Pluto as well, so there is a lot of kind of changing, kind of conflicting energy, but energy that is kind of changing and helping to clear out the old and help to bring in that new energy. So it's also a very initiating and igniting a kind of strong feminine storyline as well. So over these coming months, or the next 2 weeks at least, and possibly I feel even longer into the months ahead, we're going to see a lot more of the feminine energy being kind of brought out from behind the scenes, shall we say. So there's going to be more dominant female energy in play on the world stage, for good or for bad. That's up to each individual choice as to how they see that, but it's going to be energy that is going to be very female present energy, very female dominated. And also it will play out for yourselves, again, regarding whichever house the first house is for you personally. So on a collective level, I feel it will be seen around the crumbling of the patriarchal system and the women who have taken on these patriarchal roles and tried to fit into a masculine dominated world by making us believe in order to be successful, we as women have to be prepared to leave our femininity behind or allow it to be abused and exploited as we move further and further away from our own true nature. And the myth that has been propounded that we can have it all, in fact, is just that, a myth. And at some point we need to realise these are the truths of it. So Eris represents the suppressed female psyche, but that doesn't just have to be for women. And it isn't just for women, it is the female warrior-S energy, which over, if you look back in history, you know, there's not that many kind of female warrior energies out there that were allowed to be dominant in history. But it's the aspects of women that have not been allowed to rise to the top and be recognised. And that is the thing about Eris. She wants to be seen, she wants to be recognised. She wants us to know she is there waiting to express herself through all those undervalued sides of female experience to date. And she is ready to stand up against this patriarchal system that still refuses to acknowledge her. And that can be in many different forms, very many different ways that will take place. But like I was saying, I think that we're going to see a lot more female dominant energy coming out from behind the scenes for very many different reasons. So especially with Saturn in Aquarius at 12 degrees and 9 minutes, also still sextile the Sun, Venus and now the Moon. The time for us to stay within the confines of Saturn's restricting rings is beginning to be challenged and shown for what it is. Draconian, hierarchical systems are being questioned and are being found to no longer fit our collective needs. The governmental control that has been slowly crafted around us is being recognised, and the people are waking from the deep deceptive Piscean slumber as the veil is being lifted, as Saturn moves slowly further into the sign of radical change and revolution. We are learning to become more discerning, learning to tune into a higher sense of logical understanding or knowing in many respects. The monkey mind is being upgraded and a quickening is taking place, particularly by those who have eyes to see. Another planet very much involved in this great awakening and rebirthing energy during this new moon in Aries is Jupiter at 25 degrees 18 minutes of Aquarius. The great benefactor is also sextile the Sun, the Moon, Venus and Eris, while trining Haumea. Jupiter, the planet of expansion and magnification, will be adding his own special blend of optimism and enthusiasm. But there could also be a tendency to overreact, to jump to conclusions, to not think something through to its end conclusion. A bit like lighting the fuse just to see what might happen. This whole area between 15 degrees and 14 minutes and 28 degrees 9 minutes is a truly charged hotspot of Aries, as this is where Mars went retrograde back in September up until November 2020. He only released himself from his shadow period on the 3rd of January 2021, so not that long ago. So now we have this build-up of energies, all reactivating that same energy, or that same area. And Mercury is about to move into that shadow zone. Just a couple of hours after the new moon tomorrow, Mercury will literally move into that shadow zone of 0, 9 degrees. Is it 0, 9 degrees? Sorry, no, it's 15 degrees, 14 minutes. So Mercury is going to hit that spot. The sun, moon, not the moon, no, sun, yes, sorry, sun, moon, Venus, Eris are all in that area of the reactivating energy at this time of where Mars was last year. So and the sun and the moon will still be conjunct at the time that Mercury hits that spot as well. So Mars is the ruler of all things military. As I've already mentioned, he's out of bounds, meaning a time when he is reckless and possibly not taking things very seriously. He is in an air sign on one side of this reactivating energy, while Jupiter, also in an air sign, is trining him, encouraging him to be carefree, wild and take chances, while also being on the other side of that potentially creative force. All this air energy is focused on everything in Aries. So you've got a lot of fire energy, you've got a lot of air energy coming together, which you could almost call explosive. A lot of hot rhetoric at this time, possibly a lot of steps initiated towards potential warfare. This is Mars, Eris, god of war. And the battlefield we are talking about here with all this energy in Aries, that's Mars's place, that's his home, it is the battlefield. He is constantly trying to work things out, plan things strategically, ready to initiate new steps. How do we do this? How do we do that? How do we compete? How do we... It's that kind of energy. Yeah, so things could easily become overheated. And as they have all just crossed over the axis Monday recently, we could see this play out on the world stage. The heat in the kitchen is getting hot, hot, hot. And if you know anything about world affairs and anything about what's taking place at this time between big build-ups of energy, shall we say, there are certain things that should be being taken notice of and should be, how can I put it, quite worrying at this time with all this Mars and Aries energy, and Mars being out of bounds as well and not answering to anybody. And personally I feel as though there's this, it's like on the edge. It's like, yeah, on the edge. It could go either way. With Venus there, hopefully things will kind of stay calm, but of course Venus is hidden because it's behind the sun, so it could explode at any point in time. So just hopefully not. Hopefully it won't. But so adding to this is Neptune at 21 degrees 48 minutes or 22 degrees. Another 22 degrees master energy number here. So she is semi-sextile the Aries energy. Again, it's just semi-sextile, so it's just 30 degrees that we are talking about. But more worryingly, she's square to the wild freedom at any measures Mars, who in Gemini is also super strategic, full of new ideas, plans and discoveries. But in square to Neptune, he may be feeling uncertain as to whether he wants to move forward with his plans and then suddenly, without warning, give way to a devil-may-care attitude where he may just rush into something at full speed. There could also be a lot of backward and forward with this, as Gemini is the sign of duality. And I also feel it could come across as a selfish attitude, creating confusion within ourselves and those around us, possibly about what is truth and what is deceptive manipulation. The Mars energy may need to be reined in, as out of bounds Mars and boundaryless Neptune could make for a recipe for disaster. This could well be compounded by the fact that Black Moon Lilith is at 19 degrees 13 minutes in Taurus, adding to the strong urge to just be completely unanswerable even to ourselves. Taurus is the sign of ownership, possessions, what's mine, what are my values around what is mine, as well as our five senses. Black Moon Lilith during the new moon is both square Jupiter and sextile Neptune. This is an interesting aspect, as this is the first time that Black Moon Lilith has connected with Neptune since she passed over the top of the planet of confusion, deception, deeply held subconscious fears, and all things that can't be seen by the naked eye, i.e. germs and viral infections, back in 2019. So Black Moon Lilith first became conjunct with Neptune back in mid-August, almost 2 years ago, while Neptune was also sextile to both Pluto and Saturn in Capricorn. Pluto and Saturn are known as maleficent energy, as they always work through adversity, which appears to us to be hard and painful, as birth, death, transformation and mastery inevitably is. Nothing comes easy with Pluto and Saturn. Conjunct Neptune, these were hard lessons we needed to learn in order to become masters of our own destiny, as we were about to witness and partake in something hugely transformational. As I was looking back at the astrological chart for this time period of 2019, something very synchronistic took place. Something called the vertex got my attention, as at the time of this new moon in Aries, it is sitting at 0 degrees 30 minutes and is sticking out like a sore thumb. Literally, it's got nothing else around it. It's just there all on its own, and it just kind of leapt out at me. And I've never really paid it much attention before. But for some reason, as I said, it just jumped out at me and was kind of demanding my attention. It's like, look at me. Not really thinking much of it. I then decided I was going to look up the chart for back in August, when Black Moon Lilith and Neptune became conjunct, or when they first started to become conjunct. And when I did so, I discovered that the vertex was playing a very significant part in that connection. Although not directly, it seemed to be adding an extra layer to what we were all about to experience. So the vertex is not an actual physical celestial body. It is an imaginary point created by an astrologer called Charles Jane, which comes from the intersection of the ecliptic, the path of the sun through the sky, and the prime vertical, the horizon that divides the celestial sphere into front and back. Don't ask me to explain any more than that, because I can't. So it is always found on the right side of the ascendant between the 5th and the 8th houses. This vertex in a personal birth chart, so if you're looking for your vertex in a personal birth chart, that's where you'll find it. It will be between the 5th and the 8th house. So it's similar to the moon's north and south nodes, as it has an axis, like the north and south nodes do. So opposite the vertex, we find the anti-vertex, which is also nicknamed, this axis is nicknamed the electric axis, which I'm presuming is because it has a charged energy about it, as it is also referred to as being a sensitive point in a chart. And you know, it's sometimes like if you press a sensitive point on your skin, you can kind of get that kind of electric kind of feeling, that kind of tingling that you get when you kind of press a sore point, and it kind of goes, ah, like that. So I'm kind of presuming that that's where that comes from, but I could be wrong. So anyway, the vertex is associated with external or outside influences and encounters that come into our lives, and it relates to karmic destiny, fated meetings, and it's also known as Destiny's Gate. It is a place where we easily give control. So it's a place where we easily give ourselves over to something beyond the scope of our own life and beyond which we have no control. Which kind of, when I read that, I kind of thought, wow, that's really quite fascinating, seeing as it has played such a big part in what I think took place. So as Black Moon, Lilith and Neptune began to come together on the 15th of August, so this was the chart that I first went back and looked at, in Pisces, we had Saturn at 14 degrees 51 or 15 degrees, the South Node at 15 degrees 34, and the anti-vertex was at 15 degrees 29 minutes, which meant that on the opposite side of that, we had the vertex conjunct the North Node at 15 degrees 29 minutes. So while Pluto and Saturn were also conjunct, getting ready for their major conjunction in January 2020, what I noticed in this chart was the really interesting aspect being made with the North Node and the vertex in Cancer. So as I said, we had both the karmic nodes and the electric axis conjunct each other, opposing each other's opposite. I hope that makes sense. As it's implying for me that something so huge was coming that was about to change our destiny forever. Well, incidentally, the North Node and the vertex just happened to be trining both Neptune and Black Moon Lilith at the same time. The North Node, representing our karmic destination and where we are heading as a collective, was right bang on top of the gate of destiny. While the South Node, that point of karmic past energy that needs to be left behind by the collective, was on top of the anti-vertex, which was in the centre and conjunct Saturn. So it's basically the anti-vertex was sitting in between Saturn on one side and was on top of the South Node on the other side. In my opinion, and it is just my opinion, it truly was the key that unlocked the door for time to let go of all that old, stagnant, indoctrinated, patriarchal energy of the past. According to Crystal B astrology, every time the vertex is triggered in our personal astrology, something out of our hands happens. A matter of fate and destiny begins to unfold. So I asked myself, could this also be true on a collective scale when the vertex and the anti-vertex is conjunct something as powerful as the South and North nodes? Amazingly, if we go back to the previous day, so that would be the 14th of August, we find the electric axis in 2019, this is, in the opposing positions just before Neptune and Black Moon Lilith come into each other's orbit. So literally they were in swapped positions just before Black Moon Lilith and Neptune started to come together. The anti-vertex is trining them both from Cancer, while the vertex is conjunct and central to both Saturn and the South Node. So here we have a double whammy, which I personally believe also helped to usher in the madness we have all lived through over the past year and more, as rumours had started to circulate about something happening in the land of the dragon in late October, early November. What I also discovered when I did some calculations was this took place every 17 hours. And with both Saturn and the nodes being such slow-moving energy, it happened over and over again, activating and opening up that same energy. Literally like a gate. It was like a gate, a doorway. What was even more fascinating was the fact that they met up with Jupiter every alternate 12 hours in Sagittarius, his home sign, while the planet of enlarging any energy it connects with was also square to both Neptune and Black Moon Lilith. Again, both ultra slow moving entities, and just to make it even more layered than it already is, 4 of our outer generational life-altering, history-making planets were all in retrograde introspective mode. But I just found that really interesting, that completely just out of nowhere these kind of jumped out at me, and it kind of was totally, I feel totally connected to this energy. So of course over the following 17 hours both vertex points of the electric matrix would also cross over all the other planets, but for me Saturn, Pluto, Neptune, Black Moon Lilith and Jupiter are the main instigators in this long ongoing drama. And I think you know what I'm talking about when I call it a long ongoing drama. So coming back to now, Black Moon Lilith first started becoming sextile with Neptune back on the 24th of March. At the time of this new moon, there is only 0.2 degrees between them. However, Jupiter at 25 degrees and 18 minutes is also square to Black Moon Lilith. I personally see Black Moon Lilith as an energy of all things dark, hidden, things that are taboo. It is a shadow side that we don't want to acknowledge. The reason for this is she is the point of the moon that is furthest away from the earth. This is why I vision her, or I see her as this kind of energy, because we never get to see this energy. It's hidden, it's on the other side of the moon, and that's like the mystery, the hidden side, the dark unknown. Anything could happen. We wouldn't know anything about it. And that's kind of the energy that I feel. It's like if anything untoward goes on, it happens underground. It happens where you don't know it's happening, behind closed doors, in the dark. And that's what it represents. That's what Black Moon Lilith represents for me. It is also seen as a very sexual energy as well. So take from that what you will. So the side of the moon we never get to view from our vantage point on this planet. So she is to me the darker side of our own subconscious nature. The emotions, feelings and behaviours we feel the need to hide from others. Some astrologers see her energy as being represented by the evil Maleficent, who puts a 100-year sleeping curse on the kingdom in Sleeping Beauty. And who interestingly kind of come out over the last 5-6 years, the films of Maleficent herself rather than the actual story of Sleeping Beauty. So that's quite interesting as well. Yeah, so some people see her as that kind of energy, and she's also been likened to the White Witch in The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe as well, who put the land of Narnia into a perpetual winter. Others say she is like Pandora, who opened the box that let out all the suffering into the world. Maybe it's a mixture of all three. which makes a lot of sense at this time. I personally see her as an energy that every now and again we need to deal with, like a poisonous, toxic, lower base chakra frequency that grows within the collective and then erupts from somewhere like a dark shadow phantom beast that needs to be seen to then be able to be released, in order that we as a human race can learn and grow from our collective failings of the horrors we have continually unleashed on each other. In doing so, we are able to move up to a higher octave, another level of collective frequency, as each successive generation comes through. I personally believe these moments to be history changing within the collective psyche. In case you don't know the story, at the very bottom of Pandora's box, and the last thing to emerge, was the Star of Hope. Hope is an intangible energy that is different for us all, and very difficult to express what it means to us as individuals. And yet, without it, at times, we literally may have nothing to hold on to. Those who give up on hope, which could also be called faith, give up on themselves and life itself. Jupiter is the planet of hope, faith, trust, optimism and truth. And in the sign of Aquarius, it is saying think bigger, think outside the box and beyond the limited boundaries. There is so much more to this story than meets the eye. As Neptune and Black Moon Lilith meet again for the first time, as I said earlier, since 2019, I feel that this will be a time when a lot of the confusion surrounding the reality of the last year will begin to come out, kicking and screaming more and more into the light. It won't be given up easily though, as those with vested interests, of which there are quite a few, will continue to try and obfuscate the truth from us. Black Moon Lilith and Neptune will continue in this sextile through the rest of April, right through May and most of June. I'm not going to try and say that word again. During which time it will feel like we are emerging out of a dark tunnel, like a long winter is finally beginning to thaw, as if we have been through a collective night of the soul and are beginning to awaken to ourselves. Helping to bring this about is the awakening, liberating Uranus at 09 degrees 36 minutes, also in Taurus, who at the time of the new moon in Aries is only doing one thing, which is continuing to square up to Saturn, although he is actually semi-sextile, the Aries energy as well. But I feel that it's not really that much of a connection. Semi-sextiles never really are that much of a connection when it comes to something like a square. I mean, that's a much bigger energy, and this is a continuation of the battle, the challenge of the old versus the new, which we can see very clearly being played out on all levels of our society. The old paradigm is being challenged, which we will experience in waves that will shock and awaken the slumbering parts of those who are still under the spell and illusion that the world is going to return to the same level of normality as we were living in before any of the insanity began. Interestingly, as we enter into the Aquarian age, it is being reported that Uranus, the second ruler of the 11th house of the people, the collective and communities, who governs over such things as electricity, innovation, revolution, free energy, kundalini and the higher consciousness, is himself beginning to flare up and is showing signs of change on the surface of the planet. I just thought I would put that in there because I find that quite interesting, that as we're moving into this very Aquarian energy, the planet that actually is connected most to the Aquarian age, Uranus, as I was saying, revolution, electricity, is himself waking up. And you can actually go online and look that up for yourselves and just put in Uranus flaring and you will find articles all about that and what's happening there. Of course, what the scientists are telling you is happening is on one level, and what could be happening on another level could be something completely different. So the Sabian symbol for the 22 degrees of Aries is phase 22, the gate to the garden of all fulfilled desires. So this is degree 22 of Aries. And the keynote here is abundance, made possible by human togetherness and cooperation, very Aquarian energy, which is what we're going to have to do to get through this. We're going to have to come together, we're going to have to cooperate to get to the other side of this dark tunnel. So in contrast to the crude and cruel road to fame and power symbolised by the prize fighter, we now see a symbol of apparently wide open and effortless fulfilment. Alone, a human being can barely survive in nature's great life drama. In organised groups, men, women, humans can in due time fulfil their desires. The abundant life is in theory open to all. At least this is the ideal, the great dream. This symbol can also be given an erotic meaning referring to womanhood. Don't ask me why, I have no idea about that. So the second stage of this series of symbols, the goal of happiness, dominates the consciousness of cultural man. The more validly so, the more modest his desires. Religious philosophies, like American New Thought, glorify this social feeling of abundance, glamorizing it in an avid cosmic optimism and a cult of success. Very interesting. So that is my new moon reading. I asked for 3 cards earlier as well, which are from the Reflections by Julie Soskin. I will put the cards in the description box that I'm using here as well. And I found them really interesting, actually, the 3 that came out. And it was just 3. I literally asked for 3 and I got 3, so pretty good. So the first says, accept the new raised energy on your own level of being. You must have no desire to cling on to or to learn on what you have called gods. So I would also put that in that bracket, people who are kind of idolized, people who we kind of see as being like these godlike beings. And we need to let go of that idea if we're ever going to rise above. And the second one is, now, with the wind of change blowing, the negativities are dissolving and you stand free of them on your own. Again, I thought very, very, very fitting. And the last card that they gave me is, those of you who have risen in consciousness know of the reality of the changes and know that you must keep a stillness within. Incredibly apt, I thought. I just absolutely kind of, when I read them, I was just like, wow, wow, they are incredibly fitting. And so just to finish this off very quickly, I'm going to pull an Angel Guide card by Kyle Gray. Whoops, not that one. I will put that one back in because I kind of pushed that one out myself, so I don't feel as though that was the right card. So let's try again. And get a card for the new moon energy in Aries, please. What is it the collective needs to know? From the Angel Guide Oracle. What is it the collective needs to know at this time? We have cut the cords, which I feel is very, very apt, because we are leaving that old energy behind. We are moving into this new energy. It is time, as it was saying here, do not cling on to the old, like the gods, the idols, those that we would give our power away to, really, is how that's coming through for me. Do not give your power away to anybody else, which is a very Aryan energy, in fact. It's like reclaiming your sovereignty, reclaiming your own power, your own inner strength, your own identity. So let's see where we have cut the cords. Page 34. Okay, so in spirituality, cords are the energetic bonds that connect us to a situation, person, or place. There are different types of cords, but in this context, they are connections to situations or people that can have a negative and draining effect upon us. We can also create a negative cord when we have an expectation of the outcome of a situation, especially when it is outside our control. So this is an important time for you to release any attachments to people, places, situations, outcomes, or anything else that could be limiting your experience of joy. Angels are wrapping you in a light of love so that you can lovingly detach from situations that could be draining, dramatic, or damaging your health or purpose. And I'm just being reminded as well about the tapestry and the kind of unpicking of those threads as well, and kind of cords, the threads to the past, to our history. So absolutely incredibly apt card. And I'm going to leave that there and say thank you very much for watching this video. For those of you who've come across to my channel to see what it's all about and to listen to me for the past hour, thank you. I really do appreciate you being here. If you have enjoyed my video, please could you thumbs it up for me, because that really helps it to grow, to help grow my channel, which I am going to be back doing, and kind of really wanting to get my message out there to a bigger, wider audience. And it really helps the algorithms, the YouTube world, to pick up those more thumbs a video gets, the more it gets put out there onto that kind of bigger world stage, shall we say. And so thank you very much to those of you who have done that for me in the past. Again, I really do appreciate it very much. Also, there is a subscribe button on my videos, so if you want to subscribe, hit that button. Again, it will be greatly appreciated, and thank you very much to those of you who have subscribed to me. Really appreciate you being here. And if you want to know when my videos are being put out, hit the bell and it will inform you as to when I release a new video. I can't think of anything else to say. I'm sure I'm missing something. When I go off, I'll go, oh damn, I wish I'd said that. But anyway, again, thank you all very much. Please take very good care of yourselves and of anybody else around you who you can at this time, and hopefully I will see you again soon.